The morning sun comes through the tall courthouse windows, stretching out in long streaks of gold across the floors. The slight smell of old wood mingles with coffee from the lobby, but there's a more serious smell in the air: anxiety, tension, and the invisible weight of secrets on the verge of exposure. Kody Brown sits in the front, tugging his tie nervously, fingers shaking almost imperceptibly. Facing him, the gallery's filled with some faces he knows. Christine, with her sharp eyes scrutinizing endlessly. Robyn, fidgeting with her small handkerchief. Meri, avoiding eye contact by gluing her gaze to the floor. And Janelle, sitting rigidly, hands clenched tightly on her lap. The clock in the room is ticking in exaggerated rhythm in the charged silence. It is as though every breath in the courtroom is magnified.
Kody swallows hard, remembering the many nights he swore to protect his family from harm. But at that moment, realizing that the web of favoritism, manipulation, and unspoken grievances had grown beyond his grasp. Today, the private struggles, whispered arguments, and broken promises are all about to be exposed. The attorney's voice cuts through the air, startling in its precision. "Your Honor, the plaintiffs are ready." Kody takes a deep breath to center himself. This is the result of decades of family dynamics, alliances created in secret, and resentments harbored for just as long. Christine's petition questions much more than his authority. It questions the very decisions he has made for decades. It is not just about property or finances, but about control, trust, and the emotional stability of the family. The stern, exacting judge nods. "Very well. Let's proceed." The gavel falls with a solid thud that can be felt in the room as the signal that the day's battle has ostensibly commenced. Robyn fidgets, memories flash before her mind. Late-night arguments about household decisions, Kody's promises that felt like obligations she never asked for, ways she had been pushed aside. Christine, as always, is composed, a thin smile of anticipation flickering across her face. Meri slumps, her shoulders carrying the emotional weight of years in silence, while Janelle looks like every nerve in her body is braced for impact. Christine's attorney stands up, slapping a thick folder on the oak table that has been polished until gleaming. "Your Honor, we are here today because the defendant has repeatedly violated the boundaries established by their marital agreements, thus being a source of emotional turmoil and instability for the plaintiffs. The evidence will show patterns of favoritism, secrecy, and manipulation that cannot be ignored." Kody's throat begins to tighten as he knows the weight of the truth is about to squarely hit him. He had thought that keeping conversations private or making decisions unilaterally was what was protecting the family. But in reality, it is much more complicated. He sees now that it is years of silent resentment building up. And all of that is coming to a head right here in this room. He finally speaks, voice trembling just slightly. I did what I thought was best for the family. I never meant to hurt anyone." Christine's response cuts like a blade. "Best for the family? Kody, this is not about you playing hero. It's about honesty, about fairness, about every time you played favorites and we all paid the price." Her eyes flash, and for the first time, the courtroom feels smaller. The tension, almost physical, pressing against everyone inside. The judge motions for the first witness. Robyn rises. Her movements are small but deliberate, a quiet declaration that she's ready to speak her truth. Her voice trembles at first, carrying the weight of years of suppressed emotion. I just want the truth to come out," she says softly, glancing at Kody. She talks of the late nights, the whispered arguments, the subtle manipulations that made her doubt her place within the family. Every word drops like a heavy anchor in the courtroom. The tension is almost unbearable. Christine leans slightly forward, eyes narrowing, as she listens to Robyn's recollections.
I felt invisible, Robyn continues, swallowing hard. Like my feelings didn't matter. Like I wasn't important. Her voice cracks, and a soft murmur spreads through the gallery.
Even Kody flinches, the weight of her words cutting deeper than any legal accusation. Janelle's voice trembles as she describes nights lying awake, wondering if her contribution meant anything. She talks of how Kody made decisions without her input, affecting her and the entire family's emotional well-being. The shaking of her hands is evident as she clasps the edge of the table, her knuckles white. Meri sits in silence, allowing her tears to fall in silence. The pain of exclusion, too real and too raw. Christine's attorney presses on, asking detailed questions about specific incidents. Who was favored, how the decisions were made, and what consequences followed. With each answer, the tension escalates, exposing fissures in the family that had been masked by smiles and holiday photos. The air in the courtroom becomes heavier, thick with emotions suppressed for too long. The cross-examination is brutal. Kody struggles in his defense. I never meant to hurt anyone, he keeps reiterating, but the words fall flat against their condemning testimonies, Robyn, Janelle, and Meri. His voice quavers, each word betraying fear. Christine stands to speak directly to Kody in a cold, sorrowful tone. This isn't just about mistakes, Kody. It's about patterns, repeated choices that favored some while leaving others behind. Patterns that we've carried quietly for years, but not anymore. The judge orders a brief recess, but the courtroom is abuzz. An envelope, given discreetly, contains a recording that Kody never expected would go public. The moment it starts to play, the room falls silent. The voices captured are unmistakable, candid, raw, revealing the private decisions, the favoritism, and manipulations Kody hoped no one would ever know. Robyn gasps softly. Meri's lips quiver, holding back a sob. Janelle's eyes widen, shock and sorrow mingling in her eyes. Even Kody's hands are shaking as he realizes that a single misjudgment could unravel years of carefully constructed defenses. Christine sits back, a small, knowing smile of vindication curling her lips. The recording fades to black, leaving the courtroom suspended in silence. The judge bends forward, eyes scanning the document and the faces around him. We will continue with testimonies, but this recording will be considered evidence in the ongoing proceedings. Every whisper, every look, and each subtle sigh holds so much weight. Kody's palms are damp, and his heart is pounding. The day has barely just begun, yet the emotional battles rage on. Robyn's voice cuts through the tension. I just want my feelings acknowledged, that I mattered in this family. She says quietly to herself, but loud enough to carry through the room. The plaintiff's attorney nods, letting the weight of it all sink into the courtroom. Janelle wipes away a tear. Meri shifts uncomfortably, and Christine's gaze does not budge from Kody. More and more layers of tension, secrets, and old wounds come unwinding, unraveling with each witness as the proceedings continue. Questions of favoritism, hidden alliances, and emotional neglect dominate the testimony. Every answer draws gasps, murmurs, and moments of silent judgment. The room is nearly electric with raw emotion by mid-afternoon. The atmosphere is thick and heavy, bearing down on family and audience alike. Even the court reporter has to struggle to keep pace, every scribble of the pen capturing the weight of confession, accusation, and emotional exposure. And then, at what feels like the emotional peak of the day, plaintiffs introduce one final piece of evidence, a cache of letters and emails showing secret promises manipulations, and behind-closed-doors decisions. It has an immediate effect. Kody goes white, his composure breaking for the first time in open court. Christine leans forward. Her voice is firm, yet brimming with restrained emotion. This is about more than property, Kody. It's about trust. It's about a family we were promised, a family we deserve. Meri stares at her hands, shaking. Robyn turns to Kody, her face a mix of anger and heartbreak. Janelle exhales sharply, the weight of the revelations heavy upon her shoulders. The courthouse is silent as the next session gets underway. The morning sun has shifted, slicing across the waxed floors and casting long shadows that stretch the space and make it feel narrower, more oppressive. Kody Brown sits ramrod straight at the front, hands clasped together with knuckles white. He glances at each of the wives, Christine's eyes like daggers, Robyn's face tense and pale, Meri quietly trembling, Janelle rigid and unreadable. The weight of yesterday's disclosures hangs heavily on them all, with today promising even more. The judge calls the courtroom to order. We will continue with the testimonies. The first witness is Ms. Janelle Brown. Janelle gets up slowly, as if carrying invisible chains on her shoulders. She walks to the stand, every step deliberate. Her voice, which is at first steady, speaks from years of emotional exhaustion. I've tried to be patient, she begins, eyes fixed on Kody. I've tried to trust. But there were decisions made, behind closed doors, without my knowledge, that affected not only me, but our children. And I couldn't speak up because I was afraid. The courtroom leans forward, hanging on to every word she says. Kody shifts uncomfortably, swallowing hard. He knows Janelle is speaking the truth, and that makes every accusation sharper, every word a slice into his conscience. Christine's attorney presses on. Can you give the court specific examples of these decisions? Janelle takes a deep breath, her hands shaking slightly. Financial decisions, family relocations, promises made to certain wives without consulting the rest, and worst of all, the emotional favoritism, always favoring one side over the other. Her eyes glisten with unshed tears. It left me feeling invisible, unimportant, like my presence didn't matter. The murmurs ripple through the courtroom. Robyn clenches her fists, trying to restrain herself, while Meri quietly sobs into her hands. Even the judge leans slightly forward, taking note of the depth of emotion pouring out from her. Kody's jaw tightens. His defenses suddenly feel fragile. The next witness has been a close family friend, one who has known the Browns for several decades. Their testimony begins somewhat cautiously, but grows in intensity. I have seen patterns, the witness says. Repeated favoritism, emotional neglect, and manipulation. Decisions made in secret. Promises broken, alliances formed in shadows. Kody Brown has often prioritized convenience over fairness, and the emotional cost has been significant. Kody fidgets uncomfortably. Each word pounds in like a hammer, revealing several years of repressed family dynamics. Robyn remembers late nights of hushed discussions, questions not answered, and promises broken. Janelle's hands are shaking as she holds onto the edge of the stand. Meri's face is pale, a mixture of grief and disbelief. Christine's voice rises, calm but searing. We are not here to punish Kody. We are here because the truth must be acknowledged. Because the emotional damage runs deep, and the patterns cannot continue. The air is thick with tension in the courtroom. Each cough, the rustle of paper, the whisper of a word, holds weight. Kody tries to answer, but his words sound inadequate, even to himself. As he tries to repair the widening cracks, Then a dramatic shift. An envelope is handed to the judge. Documents from a private investigator detailing hidden financial transactions, showing a pattern of secretive control. Gasps ripple through the room. Kody's face pales, the realization dawning that even his best efforts to justify his decisions may now be considered deceitful. Robyn leans forward, bending toward her attorney to whisper, This proves what I've been saying for years." Her voice is taut with emotion, a mixture of vindication and lingering pain. The judge studies the documents and says, "These will be admitted into evidence. We shall now proceed with witness accounts as to these transactions." The tension in the room is so thick it is almost palpable. Kody runs a hand through his hair, eyes darting to each wife in search of a modicum of mercy or understanding. It won't be found. Christine's gaze is unyielding, Robyn's accusatory, Meri's quietly mournful, and Janelle's a storm contained just beneath the surface. Next, Robyn rises to testify again. Her voice is quieter now, more reflective, yet no less impactful. "I've always tried to be patient. I've tried to support the family, even when I felt sidelined. But time and again, choices were made that hurt me and the children emotionally. I felt unseen. I felt unheard. I felt secondary." The courtroom hangs on her words. Kody's fingers twitch. His mind is racing to form the right words, but none come. He realizes that no explanation, no apology, could undo years of emotional harm now laid bare. Christine leans forward, her voice low but cutting. "We're not asking for apologies, Kody. We're asking for accountability, and that starts with acknowledging the truth of your actions." At that moment, the court clerk hands a small package of evidence to the judge, a hidden recording Kody thought would never be heard. The room goes silent as the judge nods for it to be played. Kody swallows hard, a bead of sweat forming on his forehead. The voices echo through the courtroom, candid, raw, revealing the private discussions, the decisions, and the favoritism that Kody had believed were inconsequential. Robyn gasps softly. Meri covers her face, stifling a sob. Janelle's eyes widen, shock and sorrow mixed on her face. Christine leans back slightly, a small, knowing smile curling at the edge of her lips. Kody's hands are shaking. The recording confirms patterns, exposes secrets, and validates each and every accusation made so far. His defenses crumble under the weight of truth. The judge's voice cuts through the room. "This recording will be considered part of the case. We will proceed with testimonies regarding its content." There is a moment of silence. The courtroom seems to hold its breath. Every whisper, every glance, every shiver carries monumental weight. Kody exhales slowly, realizing that the first wave of accusations and revelations already came. The session continues, peeling back more layers of family tension and long-held grievances with each witness. Questions of favoritism, emotional neglect, and hidden alliances overshadow the proceedings. Each answer is resounding, its reverberations traveling across the courtroom to create a palpable sense of suspense. By mid-afternoon, the emotional toll was etched on every face. Robyn's jaw clenched, her eyes welling up with tears. Meri's hands shook uncontrollably. Janelle slumped, exhausted. Christine's face a mask of cold determination. Kody sat, trying to absorb every blow, knowing the storm was far from over. Another document surfaces, letters and emails, exposing promises broken, decisions made behind closed doors, and emotional manipulation that had been hidden so long.
the courtroom springs into action. Kody pales, his composure slipping further.
Christine's voice softens, just enough to show the pain she feels, while firm enough to strike hard. This isn't just about control. It is about honesty, Kody, and the truth can't be ignored anymore. Meri nods silently, tears streaming. Robyn stares at Kody with anger and heartbreak. Janelle lets out a sharp exhale, the weight of the emotion heavy on her shoulders. The judge calls for a recess, and Kody feels a knot of dread in his stomach. He knows when the session resumes, the next witness may expose secrets he had hoped would remain buried forever. Early morning light barely filters through the courthouse window, dull on the waxed floors. The air is thick with anticipation. Kody Brown sits erect at the front, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles whiten. Christine leans back in her chair, her face unreadable but sharp, eyes never leaving him. Robyn nervously plays with her fingers. Meri doesn't look up, and Janelle has a stoic expression, though the tension radiates off her like heat. Every member of the courtroom feels the electric weight that was today. The judge taps the gavel, silencing the whispers in the gallery. We shall proceed with testimonies. The next witness, please. A woman steps forward, a longtime family friend who has known the Browns for decades. Her eyes are heavy with emotion, a mixture of sorrow and frustration. I've watched this family grow, she begins softly, and I've watched decisions made behind closed doors that hurt more than they helped. Kody has often put one wife above the others, leaving emotional scars that may never heal. I can no longer stay silent. Kody stiffens. Every word lands like a hammer, exposing years of hidden favoritism and decisions that have divided, though intended to protect. Tears glaze Robyn's eyes. She can remember many nights when she went to bed crying, feeling unseen and not heard. Janelle's hands clench on the table as her mind flashes back to broken promises and unexplained decisions. Meri covers her mouth as silent tears roll down her cheeks. Christine angles herself forward, firm and cutting. We are not asking for vindication. We are demanding recognition. Recognition of the emotional damage, the broken trust, and the favoritism that has been allowed to flourish unchecked. The courtroom feels as though it's shrinking, the tension palpable. Every breath weighs heavier than the last. Every movement is magnified. Kody tries to speak, but his words falter, unable to bridge the chasm of anger and hurt now evident in every face. The witness continues, recounting late-night phone calls she overheard, private conversations that revealed Kody's divided loyalties, and moments when promises to certain wives were broken. With each revelation, the tension is ratcheted up a notch, the emotional stakes higher with every sentence. A court clerk hands the judge a folder. He opens it, paging through with due care. The evidence proves to be incriminating. Text messages, emails, and private recordings that counter Kody's prior statements. The gallery reacts instantly. Robyn gasps, one hand covering her mouth. Meri presses a hand against her chest, her eyes welling up with tears. Janelle exhales a sharp breath. For a moment, her composure falters. Christine's eyes gleam with a mixture of satisfaction and sorrow. The judge motioned for silence. This evidence will be entered into the record, he announced. His gavel came down to punctuate the moment, the walls of secrecy closing in. Kody's defense attorney stands up, his voice steady but strained. Your Honor, while these communications may appear concerning, context is key. My client has always acted according to his perception of the best interest of the family. But the words fall flat. The evidence is clear. The testimonies of the witnesses unshakable. Kody's explanations sound hollow, and the weight of years of pent-up anger and disappointment weighs down on him. Robyn rises again, voice trembling but resolute. I've tried to support this family, to believe in the promises made, but I've been sidelined, ignored, and emotionally neglected. I deserve acknowledgement, not excuses. The courtroom has fallen silent. Every gaze is on Kody as he struggles to respond. He opens his mouth, only to shut it again, clearly unable to utter the right words to mend what has been broken. Hurt, frustration, and resolve have crossed each wife's face in silent communication. Then, a plot twist. Christine's lawyer calls up a witness that no one expects, a private investigator who had followed the family for months. Their testimony is exacting and minute, devastating in its detail. I have documented numerous incidents of favoritism, secret financial machinations, and emotional manipulation, the investigator says. These patterns were deliberate, consistent, and had measurable emotional consequences for the wives and children involved. The room is transformed instantaneously. Kody's face pales, his jaw tightens, and sweat forms on his brow. Robyn's hands clench, Meri's tears fall more freely, and Janelle's stoicism cracks just enough to reveal the pain beneath. Christine sits forward, her eyes fixed on Kody with quiet determination, waiting for the impact of this testimony to land. The court clerk hands the investigator's evidence to the judge. A recording begins to play. Voices once private, now echoing through the courtroom. Kody hears himself, words spoken to protect certain family members, but in reality reveal manipulation, favoritism, and fractured loyalties. Robyn's gasp is audible. Meri buries her face in her hands, silent sobs shaking her body. Janelle grips the table, knuckles white, as the realization of the recorded truths hits. Christine leans back slightly, a mixture of vindication and sorrow crossing her face. Kody sits frozen. With every revelation, a misstep, a broken promise, a decision that alienated the people he wanted most to protect, is exposed. This recording confirms the patterns, substantiates accusations, and undermines years of defense that he had thought unassailable. The judge calls for a short recess, but the room remains thick with tension. As people step outside to grab their breath of fresh air, it is the echoes of the recorded conversations that make for a haunting reminder of this emotional weight now resting squarely on Kody's shoulders. When the session resumes, financial disparities are discussed. Emails and letters, along with many bank statements, disclose unilateral decisions made that tended to favor one family member over others. This favoritism reinforces the emotional testimonies that have been given so far. The impact is immediate. Robyn's eyes flash with anger. Meri's expression is one of grief and disbelief. Janelle exhales sharply, tension coiling in her shoulders. Christine's face is a mask of controlled fury. Kody tries to defend himself, but the evidence is overwhelmingly against him. Every word of justification meets disbelief, and every explanation crumbles under the weight of corroborated facts and first-hand testimonies. The emotional toll is evident. Robyn's voice shakes as she recounts moments when she felt abandoned and unseen. Meri's sobs are quiet but heart-wrenching. Janelle's composure falters as she reflects on years of emotional neglect and broken promises. Christine remains unwavering, her voice sharp as she summarizes the cumulative impact. A surprise witness, someone living in proximity to the family yet remaining in the shadows, is called forward. Their testimony is explosive, revealing secrets even Kody had hoped would remain hidden.
Alliances formed between select family members, covert decision-making, and subtle manipulations intended to maintain control. The courtroom is stunned. Gasps fill the air.
Kody's face went white. Robyn leaned forward with a pounding heart. Meri buried her face again. Janelle's hands were shaking as she absorbed the revelations. Christine sat, silently satisfied at the confirmation of what she'd so long suspected. The judge, with pen poised over his notes, watches closely. We will consider this new testimony with care. The proceedings will continue tomorrow. As Kody exits the courtroom, he could feel the weight of the revelations of the day upon him. He knew the remaining sessions would become even fiercer. The emotional and legal battles were far from over. Day 2 begins, and the courtroom is heavy with tension. The sun barely trickles through the tall windows. The light is soft, almost constrictive, a warning of the barrage of emotions yet to come. Kody Brown sits ramrod straight at the front, a light layer of sweat beading on his forehead, hands quivering slightly as he clasps them together. Across the aisle, Christine leans forward, eyes sharp and implacable. Robyn's fingers fidget nervously. Meri's shoulders shake with quiet sobs, and Janelle sits as still as a statue, yet the tension radiating from her is unmistakable. The judge raises his gavel, and the murmurs stop. We will proceed with testimony. The next witness, please. The witness, a longtime family associate, comes forward with a folder of documents. Her expression is grave. I have watched this family for many years, she begins, and what I have seen cannot be overlooked. Decisions were made that caused emotional rifts. Favoritism, secrecy, and manipulation were not isolated incidents, but repeated patterns. Kody shifts uncomfortably. He realizes that this is a credible witness, that her words hold weight, and that the truths being revealed are not easily dismissed. Tears begin to well up in Robyn's eyes, as she recalls all the late nights, questioning her worth in the family. Janelle clutches the table, knuckles white, as remembered years of betrayal and broken promises go through her mind. Meri sits silently, tears streaming down her cheeks as the weight of long-suppressed emotions begins to surface. Christine's attorney leans forward. Can you detail in what ways these decisions affected the family emotionally? The witness breaks off, composing herself. Financial and household decisions were made without consultation. There was favoritism towards particular wives. Children witnessed the unfairness. The emotional anguish was pervasive. The courtroom responds immediately. Gasps echo through the room. Kody swallows hard, realizing how the walls of control he thought he maintained are crumbling. The court clerk hands a small envelope to the judge. He opens it carefully and begins reviewing its contents. A series of emails, messages, and private notes that contradict the things Kody had previously said. The evidence is undeniable. Robyn's hands shake as she looks on. Meri's sobs grow louder. Janelle's jaw tightens, her knuckles turning white. Christine's eyes flash with a mixture of vindication and sorrow. The judge looks up. This will be admitted into evidence. Counsel, proceed with testimony in light of these documents. Kody's defense attorney stands up, trying to explain. Your Honor, context is everything. Mr. Brown's actions, while perhaps misunderstood, were intended for the welfare of the family. But his words barely land. Evidence speaks louder than his voice, as the patterns of favoritism, secrecy, and emotional manipulation are now laid bare for all to see. Robyn gets up again. Her voice is shaking, yet firm. I tried to believe, to trust that promises would be kept. But I have been bypassed, dismissed, and emotionally injured. I am entitled to an acknowledgement, not an excuse. The courtroom is silent.
with every eye fixed on Kody.
His lips move, but the words fail him as he realizes no amount of justification will ever remove years of emotional scarring. Then, the drama reaches a fever pitch. Christine's lawyer calls an unlikely witness, a former assistant who had worked intimately with the family for years. Their testimony is exacting, devastating, and personal. I witnessed favoritism, manipulation, and emotional neglect. Decisions were made in secret. Alliances shifted quietly, and the consequences were felt by everyone, especially the wives. The room responds immediately. Kody's face whitens. Robyn's fists clench. Meri buries her face in her hands, and Janelle starts to shake. Christine simply leans back in her chair, satisfied silently, a hurting yet triumphant expression etched on her face. The court clerk hands a recording to the judge, who nods in acceptance. The room falls silent as it plays. Voices once private now echo through the courtroom, candid, raw, and damning. Kody's words of what should have been defenses and justifications instead expose manipulations, favoritisms, and broken trust. Robyn gasps audibly. Meri's sobs rack her body. Janelle's hands shake as she processes the betrayal. Christine sinks back in her chair, her lips curling up into a quiet, vindicated smile. Kody sits frozen, absorbing this reality. And with every one came missteps, broken promises, and choices that alienated those he loved. The recording substantiates accusations, confirms patterns, and undermines his defenses. The judge calls a brief recess. Even as the room clears out somewhat, the tension in the room is palpable. Everyone knows the next witness could completely upend the family dynamic. When the session resumes, the attention switches to financial manipulation. Emails, banking statements, and letters reveal unilateral decisions that favored certain family members over others. The impact is immediate. Robyn's eyes flash with anger. Meri's grief is visible. Janelle exhales sharply. Christine's expression is steely. Kody tries to explain, but each defense is met with skepticism and doubt. His credibility begins to crumble under the mounting evidence and testimonies. The emotional toll is immense. Robyn recalls times where she just felt unseen and abandoned. Meri's tears flow freely. Janelle's composure wavers as she relives years of neglect. Christine's voice remains sharp, summing up the cumulative impact on the family. Then the ultimate twist. A surprise witness enters. Someone who had remained in the shadows, watching, listening. Their testimony is explosive, revealing secrets Kody had hoped would remain hidden. Covert alliances, secret financial moves, and emotional manipulation intended to maintain control. The courtroom gasps. Kody's face drains of color. Robyn leans forward, heart racing. Meri buries her face. Janelle's hands shake. Christine sits quietly, satisfied that her suspicions are now validated. The judge looks on intently. This testimony will be reviewed carefully. Proceedings will continue tomorrow. Kody exits the courtroom, his heart pounding in his chest. He knows the remaining sessions are going to be even more intense. Every secret exposed, every revelation made, has left him vulnerable. Heavy with anticipation, the courthouse waits. Sunlight filters weakly through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors and reflecting the solemnity of the day ahead. Kody Brown sits in the front, his back straight and his hands clasped tightly together, his knuckles white. Christine sits poised across from him, an undramatic calm on her face, but with a sharpness in her eyes that doesn't leave his face. Robyn fidgets with her fingers, trying to compose herself. Meri's shoulders quake gently as her quiet sobs are barely contained, while Janelle sits rigidly, her jaw clenched in preparation for what is about to take place. The judge bangs his gavel, quieting the murmurs that fill the courtroom. "We will continue with testimony. The next witness, please." A young adult child of the family is called to the stand. There is an immediate hush in the room with their presence. Every person present senses what is to come. This is no longer just about adult grievances. The impact of these decisions on the children will be laid bare. The child takes a deep breath, voice steady but emotional. "I've seen my parents argue. I've seen favoritism. I felt overlooked, invisible at times." Their eyes dart briefly to Kody. "I don't want anyone to think I'm taking sides. I just want the truth known. Some decisions made by my father hurt my siblings and me, and that is not fair." The air is tense, every word cutting through it like a knife. Kody swallows hard, guilt washing over him. Memories flash, late nights trying to fix the damage he never anticipated. Decisions meant to protect the family, but instead causing fractures he hadn't foreseen. Robyn's eyes shine with tears. Janelle clutches the table edge, trembling. Meri quietly cries, her heart heavy with long-suppressed pain. Christine leans in slightly, processing every word with both satisfaction and sorrow. Christine's attorney interrupts, her voice soft, but sharp as a razor. "Can you give specific examples of how these decisions impacted the family emotionally?" The child hesitates, then continues. "When Dad made financial decisions, favoring certain mothers, I felt like some of us didn't matter as much. When promises were broken, it caused fights that we all had to witness. The tension. It's been constant." Kody's throat tightens. Every detail is like a mirror, reflecting mistakes he hadn't fully grasped until now. He tries to speak, but the words fail him. Every attempt at justification sounds hollow against the raw honesty of the testimony. The court clerk hands a small envelope to the judge, who opens it carefully. The courtroom falls silent. The recording is played. Voices, once private, now echo across the room. Candid, raw, damning. Kody's words, intended to justify certain decisions, instead expose favoritism, manipulation, and emotional distance. Robyn gasps audibly. Meri sobs quietly. Janelle's hands are shaking as the weight of the revelations hits her. Christine leans back a little, a small, knowing smile on her face. Kody sits in silence, the reality settling over him. Each revelation, each word exposes fractures he never anticipated. Patterns of favoritism, secrecy, and manipulation can no longer be denied. The courtroom is silent, all eyes fixed onto him, and all listeners acutely aware of the moment's weight. The next witness to be sworn in is Robyn. Her voice is stronger now, laced with pain but resolution. "I tried to support this family, to trust the promises made. But time and again, choices were made that hurt me and the children. I felt overlooked, dismissed, and secondary." The courtroom hangs on her words. Kody's hands shake. Even his defense attorney looks uncomfortable, realizing the depth of the emotional damage now clearly articulated. Then comes the most explosive testimony yet. A former family employee with documented years of internal family communications. Their evidence is meticulous, in the form of text messages, emails, and notes. All these expose a pattern of secret alliances, manipulative decisions, and favoritism that had evaded outsiders' observation. The effect is instantaneous. Kody's face blanches. Robyn's eyes flash hot with anger. Meri buries her face in her hands. Janelle exhales sharply, tension visibly coiling through her body. Christine sits silently, a satisfied look on her face, knowing the testimony confirms suspicions she has carried for years. The judge reviews the evidence carefully. "This will be entered into the record," he says. The gavel strikes with authority, echoing through the tense room. Kody's defense attorney tries to speak. "Your Honor, while these documents may appear incriminating, context is key. My client always acted with the family's best interest in mind." But his words barely land. The testimony, in combination with evidence, constructs an irrefutable narrative. Kody's choices, while perhaps well-intentioned, caused emotional harm that cannot be ignored. The wives' voices, combined with corroborated evidence, bring a clear pattern of favoritism, secrecy, and manipulation. Janelle gets up again, her voice shaking, yet firm. "I tried to believe in the promises, but I've been overlooked for too long. The children and I deserve acknowledgement for the pain caused by these decisions." Meri nods silently, tears by now flowing freely. Robyn's jaw clenches as she tries to hold back her emotion. Christine leans forward, her voice calm but razor-sharp. "We are not asking for apologies. We are demanding accountability, because the family cannot move forward without the truth being recognized." The tension reaches a crescendo as the judge calls for a brief recess. Kody steps outside, his heart pounding. The day's revelations had begun to dislodge the defenses he'd depended on for so long. Every secret exposed, every hidden document, every emotional testimony left him open and raw. When the court reconvenes, attention is given to other financial irregularities, unilaterally made decisions, secret accounts, and preferential distribution of assets. The evidence is clear, the pattern undeniable. Robyn's eyes flash in anger. Meri's grief is palpable. Janelle's shoulders are still coiled, rigid with emotion. Christine's expression is icy, each word calculated. Kody attempts to answer, but his defenses crumble under the weight of testimony, evidence, and raw emotion. Every argument seems insufficient, every explanation hollow. Anticipation hovers in the air, thick with tension, as if the walls are closing in. A surprise witness enters, a person who has been living in this family's shadows for years, observing, listening, documenting. The testimony is explosive. Covert alliances, secretive decisions, and manipulative actions for maintaining control are exposed. Gasps echo through the courtroom. Color drains from Kody's face. Robyn leans forward, heart racing. Meri buries her face. Janelle's hands shake as she absorbs the revelation. Christine sits stoically, inwardly pleased. The judge watches intently. "We will consider this new testimony carefully. Proceedings will continue tomorrow." Kody leaves the courtroom, heavy-hearted, knowing that what is left to be revealed might shatter everything he had tried to protect.